Hey everyone. Well, I've done as much as I can do for today on the site. I think about 5 of you still have freelance plans out and about, roaming the planet. So as soon as you can, I would turn them in just because our work this week is with those very plans. And I will leave you some written notes to help you perhaps revise them for the roundtable. And the roundtable is where you folks get to chime in. I've chimed in some detail. I've left you an announcement with some overarching notes. And again, I'll just reiterate, probably the most important thing for these plans is to absolutely state what your freelance work is. Now, freelance writer is sort of like saying, I'm a doctor. And then people say, well, what's your specialty? Or what do you practice? And I say, well, actually, I'm a doctor of botany. So if I say I'm a doctor, I am not necessarily a medical doctor. I could be a PhD walking around the planet as a doctor. And I could have a doctor in neuropsychology or astronomy, and my term would have meant nothing to you really until I told you that. The same thing with this. So be very specific about what your freelance work is. Is it writing? Are we talking about your novel? Are we talking about teaching? Clarify that. And then be as specific as you possibly can. And I've went through many of these just saying details. What else? Journalism. So I brought in the Columbian, which I read this morning, which is the little newspaper that I subscribed to when I moved to Vancouver, Washington 3 weeks ago now. And I think that journalism has sort of got a really bad rap during the discussion. It's like, who needs this news in the world? The world sucks and we don't want to read about it anymore. And really, I think about journalists in many ways as the people who make change in the world. And I think about the journalists that broke the Watergate, the journalists that broke the story about the Catholic priests abusing children, journalists who discovered a lot of amazing and horrible things and alerted the world to them. I think of journalists as people who write opinion columns. I think of journalists as people who write personal columns. I posted for a couple of you in the Columbian. It's not here today. He'll write tomorrow. The weather guy it's sort of a personal weather column. It's like, what's going to happen with the weather? And there's a lot of weather up here. But let me also tell you about my family and Vancouver while I'm doing it. Journalism is our letters to the editor, as I think not Sonia, maybe it was Sonia. I'm sorry, it's all blurring together. But someone wrote very eloquently about writing letters to the editor. So journalism is literally anything that appears in magazines, newspapers, or on TV journalistic programs. So we know what's in journalism. It's not just fake news. It's not just news about bombings and despair and horror. It can be, as I was reading here in the health section, fighting bullying, which to me is really a great thing to write about. What about mom-baby hiking groups, a boost to all? I like hiking groups. Afternoon naps lead to better health heart. Then we have an online discussion about what to do after you break up with someone. Understanding what latent tuberculosis means. Hints from Heloise. Your horoscope. My horoscope is. Hanging fruit has a reputation for being easy for respectable consumption. On the other hand, only a fool would pass up the abundance of life to make things harder for no reason. The sweetness is right there for you. Take it. Okay, so the horoscopes are in the newspaper. Having an open mind on Alzheimer's, which I read because my mother has Alzheimer's. And I've been dealing with that extensively. Fungus can cause stubborn lung infection. So, sports is often also thought of as a nice thing, and it's in the newspaper. Clark County was at the forefront of the recent measles epidemic, but voila, good news. Vaccination rates rise. Caution still urged. So we can, as writers, insert ourselves into the daily public eye by writing something that is positive and nonfiction and seen as journalism and put into a paper. And you may well be asked your opinion. So, for instance, not the book that's coming out next, but the novel I'm writing collaboratively is sort of it's about death, to put it bluntly. And my friend, who is a pretty well-known novelist in her own right, was saying that we would probably want to do some writing about that to put into social media, to put into the news as a way of talking about death, to demystifying death. And I am totally willing to do that because, frankly, death is something we're all thinking about it all the time. Just that Alzheimer's article brought it up for me again. And I think being open to the possibility that it could work for you opens up possibility. Saying no does slam doors. So you just never know. Keep it on the back burner. It might come in handy. All right, onward we go into more of our plan, more being specific. I will be grading them as they come in. I will also be looking at the roundtable to see what you said to others. And again, maybe use my model of looking for specifics, looking for details, looking for clarity as you comment to others. All right, have a great week, and I look forward to seeing what you come up with.